visual representation of what I'm going to call all potential options or scalar technology. Basically, inside here, you have every possible option you can perceive. Now, this is not a real visual representation of scalar technology. This is a very good visual representation of what I'm going to call a factorial ingredient placement diagram. Meaning, if you are comfortable with your conglomeration of lowest factorial ingredients of universe design abilities, you set them into an array and create all potential permutations. Now, each and every single one of these lines, because it doesn't really mean anything to you necessarily, but you cannot go past those lines, is basically what it's trying to say, is because of the factorial ingredients of the universe, you cannot break out of this diagram. Now, you can have lines in between there, like this, or like this, and those could be your timeline path with the construct, meaning you don't use this, you don't use this, you don't use this, you only use these settings, and inside that yellow line there, inside that bubble, that is all of that which you'll perceive within the universe. Now, that might be 100 lifetimes, or 1 trillion lifetimes even, if this was a real diagram, because that's how many factorial ingredients we're talking about. Now, let's say, for example, it was even bigger. And you got a whole bunch of people to sign up for this. Well, now you're talking something that's more like our speed here. Because somewhere in here is the exact permutation of the moment now. Our moment might be right there where that red dot is. And that moment defines every single thing beforehand that has ever happened to everybody on that dot. Because in order to get to that point within that scalar time bubble, every single thing beforehand had to happen exactly as it did to get there. Now, that's excluding reconstructional engrossment, meaning people that are in like parallel timelines getting phased in, because they can be in non-parallel timelines over and over and over and over, going through time a whole bunch of times, and then they can even be outside of the scalar bubble because they're making factorial ingredients that do not exist within your infinity contained. But then they could actually just beep right back in to your point in time and finish out the time bubble with you. Or they can leave early. They can come in for a moment and then they can go back. They can come in for a moment and they can go back. Here's another one, is just because this universe is outside the scalar time bubble does not mean there is not gears put here. This is actually what a lizard is. A lizard conscious being is somebody that resides outside of your pre-computed time bubble, but can edit your moments in time. So they can actually live thousands and thousands of years per second, if not more, outside of your universe in pre-computed time and come back in to your moment and make changes in your moment. This is something that is highly sought after, especially for professional athletes and esport gamers, because you get a gigantic competitive advantage. Now let's go back to this point in time here, this dot. Some people are arguing that the moment is the only thing that's new. And not necessarily, not to pre-computed factorial ingredient. This moment, yes, every single conscious being, all of these conscious beings, they have chosen this moment. And now they chose this moment. And now they choose this moment. Now, that's pretty drastically far away. Especially in a pre-computed scalar bubble where every single possible option happened. That would be like multiple lifetimes apart from each other. Okay, each of those dots. But that dot represents somewhere where you would need to zoom way, way, way in there, and the dot wouldn't even be that big. It's just, a visual representation, an imaginary representation of what's real. And why am I telling you this? Why am I teaching you this? Is because a lot of people don't understand how, like, Doctor Strange and pre-computed timelines and timeline voyeurism works. For example, like, if you could get this pre-computed factorial ingredients, well, you can't really watch the universe quite yet. You need all of its ingredients, and because that is its encryption. So here's an idea: is you can make a movie in here with this many ingredients. Okay, so pre-computed time bubble, you actually have to leave this. You have to theorize. You have to have a technology soul capturing machine that gets every single piece of these bits. And then now you can reside outside of these bits within your soul capturing machine. So now your scalar bubble is this big. So if it was only this big, for example, this is infinite encryption. Right here, that point that you don't have, for example, within your scalar bubble, let's say you captured this much of our universe, this much right here is infinite encryption. You cannot extrapolate the universe without 100% certainty. You need complete certainty of every single ingredient and every single possible timeline in order to pre-compute non-parallel. So in order to be a lizard, that's a prerequisite for you guys out there trying to get on this performance-enhancing drug. There are lizards in this universe, and I have been warned of them many times, and I'm actively against it. I do not agree with it. It's something that you should be fined for. You should be taxed. You should be acquisitioned. There's a lot of problems and war going on in the spiritual spaces around this because video gaming, nobody wants you to have 100 accounts that you can play all of them at the same time because you capture our souls. Pre-compute here, pre-compute here, pre-compute here, pre-compute here. Play 5 games against each other and then like send remote control signals back in and then freeze time. For most of us, like, we're all captured and then frozen and then placed back in. We're captured, played with, frozen, sent back in, captured, frozen, sent back in, captured, frozen, sent back in. And then the lizard's like, okay, I'm going to go back in here and we're going to make things right. And then do it all over again. Oh, let's do it all over again. Woo, send it back in. Oh, my goodness. That's literally how, like, the biggest dilemma in esports is right now is people using like super advanced infinite power technology to gain giant ground of practice in gaming. Now, imagine every single point in here can be a different permutation of time, right? One of these points in time is where lizards cannot coexist in an advantageous format against us consenting beings in this pre-computed scalar, because this is the infinity, and this right here, this bubble, this is the finite. Even though this is also infinity, It's a finite infinity because it can loop over and 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 over. You can live 100,000 lifetimes on pre-computed Earth by looping trillions of years of pre-computed all potential options. And it will be new every single time. Every single time it will be new. But it will still remain within this bubble. Because imagine this, instead of going through time like this is how you go through time. Beep, 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 beep. But really, to you, you thought the whole time that you were just moving forward through it perfectly, like this. That's what it looked like to you. But it was all these pieces coming together of time potentials to make it look like that. And that's really all I got today. If you guys have any questions about pre-computed time on Scalar, I want to leave you guys with one last thing. This is coming from like high up, Jesus healing. You are a conglomeration of particle ingredients, and you reside somewhere in this bubble of known. Okay? So if you have any diseases or ailments or problems, you might reside right here, somewhere in there. But really, all you need to do is move next door and reside in the cured version of your ingredients. Just like so. And I call this scalar healing. This is something that I learned in Sedona. They have scalar electric stimuli. They're doing electron stimuli mechanical scalar healing to the human vessel already. This is very difficult to explain, but basically they have a machine here, and they send electrons into your body in order to change your RNA, DNA, and particle ingredients, and it goes, and then boop, you're healed. You're in perfect condition. You're like, oh my God. And I've had this done to me, but it wasn't by a physical, real world electron scalar machine. It was more so like a remote, infinite power universe house, like spaceship kind of thing that could just like warp me with telekinesis powers. Yeah, so it kind of just like warped my body and my RNA, DNA, and my mass into like a better, more healthy format. And really, it's kind of like working out in a way. Like working out gets you healthy, but like scalar it'll pretty much like turn you from like anything into anything else. It's basically shapeshifting. Like you can be healed and shapeshifted from like crack addict to like Harvard, like, you know, goody two shoes with scalar. Like that's our future. Like we're gonna change heroin addict lives with scalar, and that has to do with this pre-computed time bubble, scalar. So I'm very well researched within this because of Akashic brain. I have my soul outside of the universe, and it's within Truth Source, and I'm constantly channeling more and more and more truths. And I'm very deep into infinity logic, and infinities. And I would love to talk more about it with you. So please ask away. Let me know any questions. Have a good day and peace. Om Ji Bamar out.